welcome back to another episode of Movie Bracket Challenge.
This is my recap of Robin Hood, the Disney 1973 animated action adventure. I love this version of Robin Hood. I love how it starts. We get to see Little John and Robin Hood and how they steal from the poor. They steal from the rich to give to the poor. And I love that Robin Hood always has a thing for Lady Miriam, and Lady Miriam is still in love with Robin Hood from when they were kids. And even Lady Miriam's lady in waiting, Lady Cluck, dreams of the day that Lady Miriam will get to marry Robin Hood and that King Richard will have an outlaw for a son-in-law. They daydream about each other, and it's been years since they saw each other, but they're still in love with each other. We see Robin and Little John steal from the king. Well, he's kind of the king. He's the king he stole the kingdom from the real king, King Richard, and so he's pretending to be king, and he's taxing all the poor people way more than they can afford, and so Robin and Little John, they steal some of that money back. Prince John is this big old baby, and he just thinks he should get anything he wants. So he gets tricked by Robin and Little John. Robin Hood dresses up in like he can read like a tarot reader, or I don't know what they're called, but anyway, like he can read the future. He has a bulb, and he tricks Prince John and robs him at the same time. And Robin Hood is very proud of himself. Little John is shocked they did it. And they give the money to Friar Chuck, who gives it out to everybody so they can eat and then can pay their taxes. So in the end, Prince John gets his money back, but, well, not really his money, but he does get the money from the taxes. And this is just a way of it keeping going. But Prince John really holds a grudge. So he decides he's going to trick Robin Hood. He knows he has a thing for Lady Miriam, so he makes a tournament, an archery tournament that is, and everybody will compete, and the winner will get to have a kiss from Lady Miriam. And Robin Hood just can't resist the chance. So he dresses up like a bird on stilts, and he thinks he can't be recognized. But Prince John is on to him as soon as he starts winning the archery things, because he knows Robin Hood's going to do anything he can to get that kiss from Lady Miriam. And Sir the Snake figures that out pretty quick that it's Robin Hood. He tries to warn Prince John, who's sitting with Little John, who's dressed up like a duke. But before he can make it back, Friar Chuck and some friends, they put him in a barrel of alcohol, and they stick that cork on there so he can't get out, and he can't go warn the prince. But the prince is on to Robin Hood. So Robin Hood goes to get his kiss after winning the tournament, and wouldn't you know it, that darn prince, he cuts off Robin Hood's costume, and Robin Hood is exposed, and the guards are there, and they capture Robin Hood, and the prince wants to put him to... And Lady Miriam is crying and so upset. She pleads to the Prince John, please, I'm in love with him. Please save him for me. And please don't do this. And of course, Prince John pretends like he cares. And he goes, well, Robin Hood, are you in love with her? And he says yes. And then he says, well, I don't care. Off him anyway. So he goes to do that, and everybody fights back. Little John goes behind the tent and puts a knife to Prince John and tells Prince John he must release Robin Hood and not tell anybody that he's holding him hostage. So Prince John does reluctantly do this. And just when Robin Hood's about to get away, the sheriff realizes what's going on with the prince. He tries to catch Little John, and everybody starts fighting, including Lady Clutch. And she fights for Lady Miriam to get away and to be with Robin Hood. And Little John fights, and all their friends are fighting for the freedom. And Robin Hood manages to get away, and all our friends manage to get away. Prince John is mad. He's determined to get Robin Hood. So he does what a royal prince would do. He raises the taxes. 3 times he raises the taxes as high. And nobody can afford it. So a lot of people go to jail, including Friar Tuck. But they're going to use Friar Tuck to capture Robin Hood. They're going to say they're going to put on him, and Robin Hood will come to rescue him. But Robin Hood sneaks in a costume, and one of the birds tells him everything. Well, then Robin Hood and Little John come up with the plan. They're going to rescue Friar Tuck before the dawn so that he can't be and they go in to rescue him, and everybody is fighting. They get everybody out of the jail onto a wagon to escape while Robin is fighting the guards. Little John and Friar Tuck carry that wagon with all the prisoners out. Oh no, though, one of the ladies, her little baby, is still there. So Robin Hood, like the hero who he is, goes back for the little Tuck. And he gets the little Tuck out, but not himself. So now he's got to fight everybody by himself. And as he's fighting, the castle goes on fire. And nobody seems to notice right away. They're still chasing Robin Hood. Robin Hood finally jumps from the top of the castle, and it looks like he's been... But when you know it, he snuck away by going under the water with a straw that he could breathe out of, and he gets to the land, and Prince John sees that he's been out. And then the snake goes, "But look what you've done to your mom's castle because you were trying to catch Robin Hood." The prince is sad and wants his mommy, but at the same time he's mad, so he starts chasing the snake around with a big old stick, piece of wood, and we see them arguing, and everybody gets away. And then our hero that we weren't expecting, King Richard, comes back, the real king. He takes back his kingdom. Prince John and his friends get put in jail, including that snake. And Robin Hood gets to marry his princess, Lady Miriam. And King Richard has an outlaw for his son-in-law. So let me know if this is your vote. This is my recap of Pocahontas. This movie came out in 1995 and is one of my sister's favorites. Kathleen loves Pocahontas. It's been one of her favorite princesses for a while. So we open Pocahontas in London. We see men saying goodbye to their family members and boarding a ship. We meet John Smith. Everybody's very excited he's coming because he'll be able to fight the savages, as they say. But we also meet some other not so great characters. We meet Governor Radcliffe, and we can tell right from the beginning he is the villain. On the trip over, the ship does run into a lot of storms, and this big storm knocked off one of my favorite characters, Thomas. But don't worry, John Smith took a rope and dove into the water after him and saved him, even when all the other shipmates had already given up on him. He brought him back, and he said, "Well, you would have all done it for me." And all the other shipmates went, "Oh, of course," knowing full well, no, they wouldn't have. When they arrive at the new land, they don't see anybody at first, but John goes off to look. We meet Pocahontas in the beginning of the story, and she's off just kind of doing her own thing, while her father has come back from battle. But she's not there to greet him. She's off in the woods, doing her thing, going with the wind. Her best friend arrives and brings her back, but not before getting tipped over in the canoe she was in by Pocahontas. They definitely have a sisterly bond. When Pocahontas sees the clouds, which is the ship, she goes to figure it out, see what's going on. She ends up following John Smith, who is looking around, just kind of seeing his new neighborhood, seeing if he sees any of those savages. Needless to say, he does. When he's washing his face, he sees Pocahontas in the reflection. Eventually, they meet. Pocahontas tries running away, but John Smith wants to meet her. They quickly realize they have not much in common, but Pocahontas sings one of my favorite songs, and not just Disney favorite songs, just favorite songs, Color of the Wind. And I think John Smith learns a lot from her singing and this song about how the earth and the rocks all have names and spirits, and she knows them all. And he just thinks whatever land you land on, you own. So he has a lot to learn from Pocahontas. They quickly become friends, but she has to go back, and so does he. Now, when he gets back, the shipmates that were on the ship with him, some are building what would be their homes, and some are digging for the gold for Governor Radcliffe, because he's determined to get some gold. And needless to say, they haven't found any yet, and they've been digging, and digging. They don't know yet. There's no gold. But John Smith has a little bit of a different opinion than he did before, because before he thought he was going to want to off those other people. While he was gone, though, some of the Indians and the new coloners kind of met and fought. And they're telling John Smith how he must be sad he missed all the action. But John Smith knows he has met someone who's going to change his life. Back at the village where Pocahontas lives, her father and the others are talking about these new savages as they see the coloners and the people from the ship, and how they bring what they think is fire, the guns, and how this is going to change everything. And they're scared, and they want to fight them to make them leave. Already, these two sides are already thinking about fighting when they haven't even spoke. Pocahontas has met John Smith, and she knows that they are good inside. Maybe not the most knowledgeable, but good people. So we have already some very big obstacles for our two main characters. They do sneak off to meet, and Pocahontas introduces John Smith to her grandmother, the tree. And at first, John Smith thinks he's hallucinating, but then he begins to like the tree as she compliments his good looks. And she thinks he has a good spirit. Some of John Smith's friends come looking for him, but he hides with Pocahontas because he doesn't want to be found. And the tree brings up her roots to trip them, and then they don't believe it could be the tree until the tree goes after her with their branches. And they're off, and Pocahontas and John have some more time. During one of the visits they have, Coco, the man that Pocahontas' father wants her to marry, sees them kissing, and he attacks John Smith. And John Smith and him fight, and unfortunately, Coco passes. And it's very sad. John Smith is arrested by the Indians and is going to be put to pass himself the next morning. Back at where John Smith was, his village, they are coming to rescue him. Because all these people see is hate and dislike, and they don't understand each other at all. So at first break, at dawn, they're going to go rescue their friend, and they're off. In the morning, John Smith is brought to the top of a hill, and all the Indians are on one side, and the village colony ship people come from the other side. John Smith's people, the Englishers, come to rescue him. They have their guns out, the Indians have their bows out, and Pocahontas' father is about to John Smith. But Pocahontas does something very brave. She jumps in front of it, puts her head down, and says, "If you're going to, then you have to also me." And her father is taken back. And the wind blows, and he understands that his daughter has more wisdom than he thinks she does for her age. And he says that there may be stuff done, but it won't be done at his hands first today. And everyone puts down their guns, and the other side puts down their arrows, and they join in peace for a moment until the Governor Radcliffe tries to make them say, no, it's our time to attack. But they don't want to. No one wants to fight. So he points his at Pocahontas' father, and he shoots, and John Smith does what heroes do. He jumped in front, and he is struck. Pocahontas is sad. The Englishers all gather around to get that gun away from Governor Radcliffe. They tie him up, and John Smith looks like he's in terrible condition. So he's to be taken back to London, where hopefully he can be saved. He waits for Pocahontas before he goes off to the ship. Pocahontas comes with her villagers who have brought food, and she says goodbye to John, and he asks her to go with him, and she looks around and knows that she's needed here. She's needed here to keep the peace. So she says no, she can't go. But they love each other, and they'll always be with each other in spirit. So he leaves. Hopefully the wind will have him, so he will make it back to London before, and he will be saved. And as his ship goes off, Pocahontas runs through the woods, and the wind follows her and catches the ship, and John and her wave goodbye in Pocahontas' language. And it's a beautiful story, and one of my favorites. Thank you so much for joining. Is this your vote? Don't forget to vote, comment section, and our community page.